Welcome back to the show. Well, if you're going to ask someone to pen a book about the history of Preston Street and the history of the Italian community, and even talk to us here on the show, I couldn't think of a better person than the professor of Italian studies at Ottawa University. And we are joined by Dr. Franco Ricci. Dr. Ricci, welcome to the show. Let's talk about, first of all, your inspiration behind penning this book. And I mean, Preston Street, the Italian community, they have such an incredible history here in our region.
Indeed. Thank you for having me on.
A pleasure.
Well, I've lived in several Italian-American, Italian-Canadian communities. And unfortunately, I found that here, the Italian community of Ottawa did not have any full-fledged study, just like the others. And so I thought I wanted to fill that lacuna. I wanted to discuss the wonderful history of the Italian community here from its very beginnings. And I've called the book Preston Street Corso Italia because we begin with George H. Preston and John Rochester, who wanted to parcel off land on the then Richmond Landing. We move then into the ugly history, as it has been called, between Dalhousie and LaPrette. You know that the Rideau Canal, according to Colonel John By, was supposed to have flown down present-day Preston Street,
right,
rather than starting on the Bluffs, which was the property of Dalhousie. Also, too, I wanted to use that to subtend and to use this as a basis for really showing the pioneers who came in the early 1800s and then the 1900s. Most of them did not settle in the Preston Street area, or what was known as Rochesterville at the time.
Okay,
it actually settled in Lower Town. And many of them are responsible for all those magnificent buildings that we see in the Sandy Hill area district, and also a lot of the government buildings, which were built by these early immigrants who were stone cutters and stone masons.
Dr. Ricci, when did we see sort of Preston Street in that area start to become really, the Italian community and what we think of Little Italy today?
The very first Italians to move on Preston Street were in 1910, 1920.
Okay.
The very first grocery store that began import. There were other grocery stores, Italian-oriented grocery stores such as Imbro's on Rideau Street and Guttabiero on Nelson and Rideau that were serving the English and French community. But the enclave which was forming on Preston Street, the very first store was the Guzzo Adamo store. And everyone in the Italian community knows of Pat Adamo. It was the very first store on Preston. And so beginning with the 1920s and 30s, you begin to have seasonal laborers coming over.
Okay. And
they naturally gravitated towards that area because there were Italian families there.
When we look at Preston Street today, compared to what we, in the past, it's gone through quite a remodel, I guess you could call it, a renovation of sorts. I mean, it really is a vibrant street now. What do you think about what they've done along that strip?
Well, it can indeed be problematic. Gentrification is one of those terms that was used in the 90s and the 2000s. Where we're taking older properties and gentrifying them. And this is exactly what's happening to Preston Street, much to the dismay, I might say, for a lot of leaders in the Italian and the Italian-Canadian community here. I mean, the winds of change are there, but they may be turning that street into a wind tunnel with all the huge skyscrapers which are planned to be placed on that street. It will eventually become another major thoroughfare that leads into a redeveloped LeBreton Flats.
And losing... I'm
sure it'll be very, very...
Right, I was just going to say, losing some of that flavor, right, of what makes it Little Italy. When I look at that tower, right at the corner of Carling and Preston, it no longer screams Little Italy. And as you said, if it turns into that sort of Westboro kind of wind tunnel, it really is taking away from the flavor of what made that such a special place.
Well, I'm fully confident that the youth who are returning to Preston Street and are opening up new businesses will be able to maintain that cultural vibe, which has always been Italian. Remember, the Italians, wherever they've gone, but especially here in Ottawa, they've always given the best of themselves, be it in the grocery business, be it at the level of politics. We all know the Italian politicians. I don't have to name them here. Be at the level of sports. Okay, the Chiarelli family, Peter Chiarelli himself, the general managers from this area.
And it's certainly encouraging, Dr. Ricci, to hear you talk about the youth and how they're going to keep all those, a lot of that tradition alive. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you at home for watching. We'll see you next time.